The reader, whom Jesus Christ mentioned in Matthew 24:15, is now appearing. The calling. In the year 2018, this man, the reader, was called to do what he needs to be done. And this is his story. In the month September year 2018, at around 2 to 3 am, a knock was heard to his room. There was a 3 times knocking. That sounds like a knocking of human being. At that time, he was still reading the Bible. He took a pause for a moment and observed what happens next. For the knock was not heard from the door, but to the wall. No human being can knock through that wall, for no access to it. There was a moment of silence, and no voices was heard. So he started reading again. Moment after he started to read, a knock was heard again, 3 times like as the first one. So he observed again, but an amazement filled his heart. Why is the knocking? Who knocks? He said it from his heart, and there was again a moment of silence. So he said, if he knocks again, I will answer the call. For this will be the 3rd time, and that is not good. If nobody answers. He observed and again no voices was heard. So he did read again. Moments longer than the first and the second one, or 3 times knocking, was heard again. So the reader decided to heed the call. He walks to the wall slowly. Not a footstep was heard, so that those who knocks cannot notice, and lean his hand against the wall. Then he started praying, and before he finished the prayer, he said, "Thy will be done." And slowly he departed from the wall, and back to where he was reading. He never reads again, but observed if it knocks again. Minutes passed and even half an hour. The knocking was not heard, until he fall asleep, soundly. And in the next month, October 2018, the reader accompanied his wife, his mother-in-law and his father-in-law to the folk healer or a quack doctor. For his father-in-law lost his sanity. Unfortunately, the quack doctor was not home, resting in a small nipa hut, sitting next to his wife, and adjacent to them, sitting also the 2 brothers of the quack doctor. They started chatting. Suddenly out of nowhere, a blue-colored bird flew towards where the reader sit, and resting upon his right shoulder. Unaware and shock, the reader shaking his shoulder, causing the bird to fly, and rested in a meter distance only, resting upon the branch of a tree. The reader and the bird had an eye contact, but the reader did not understand what happens, and there was a moment of silence. The reader asks the 2 brothers if the bird is domestic or a wild. They answered, the bird is wild, and the first time they saw them resting upon a man's shoulder, and when they turned their attention to the bird, it was gone and no one noticed why it did disappear suddenly. The next month, November 2018, this is what happened. The reader was reading the book of Revelation, and hardly trying to understand what it all means. Suddenly a light appeared in his mind, not about what he reads, but about the book of Daniel, the 70 weeks and the giant statue. He was moved by the Spirit. He presumed it was the Holy Ghost, giving him the answers and revelations of the 70 weeks and the giant statue. And this is a reason why the reader, in all his capability to do, are sharing to the world the revelation of the prophecy of the book of Daniel the prophet. For the end is near, giving us all the timeline of the judgment of God in just 70 weeks. The reader claimed that he started reading the gospel when he was 14 years old, and until the time of the calling, he never understand the prophecies of the Bible, let alone the 70 weeks. But the Holy Ghost called him and give him understanding and wisdom, so that through his message, those who seek can find. Now if you are a seeker, like the reader himself, this revelation is for you. This is not to the world, for the world do not understand the message, the gospel. This is a pilot episode. Stay tuned for the succeeding ones. Do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Good night.